As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up today to help me have a conversation about two things. We're going to start off talking about the APT Foundation wanting to move into New Harville. And the second half an hour, we're going to talk about the governor vetoing the PROTECT Act and how and what we can do this session to make sure that it's signed into law. So I want to start off by introducing my guests. You can say a little bit about yourself. Start off with Pastor John Lewis, and then we're going to go to Rick Albert.
Hi, my name is Pastor Lewis with Christ New Testament Church, located at 220 Dixwell Avenue. I'm also a lead trainer for the Kingian Nonviolent Training Institute, also a friend of Barbara Faird's. And if I didn't show up today, Barbara would have definitely got me. So I just want everyone to know you don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Thank you, Pastor Lewis. And now we're going to bring up Richard Albert. Thank you, Richard, for showing up.
Thank you, Barbara. Nice to meet you, Pastor Lewis. I'm Richard Albert. I'm a lifelong resident in New Haven. I'm one of the founding members of the Ninth Square Merchants Association, which you all now know as the Special Services District. I grew up here, served the community here my whole life, still do. I'm also a certified addictions counselor. I'm a trauma specialist, and I'm also an auricular acupuncturist. And I voluntarily came on here to give you some insight from the inside of what I experienced and what the community really needs to really look at how APT is coming into the community and how they can be beneficial if they were to reach out and make that effort to the community.
So for the record, Mr. Albert, I didn't strong arm you to come on the show.
Oh, no, I came actually,
Okay.
actually for the record, I think we met 2 weeks ago at the protest.
Yes.
I was in a Saturday morning meeting, and I saw you and a bunch of people protesting outside the building, and I threw on my slippers in 5-degree temperature and came over to the corner and stood there to speak up because I was extremely disappointed in the city administration and their lack of supporting the community. So I believe everybody has a voice, and it's my responsibility in helping build this city and doing things for the community my whole life. That it was important to show up and to come on and try to give some clarity and purpose of what the community really should be getting.
And I want to thank you for that, because when I heard your voice in the crowd, you were bringing up points and people were not really paying attention to it, but I thought they were very important points. And just the fact that you have actually worked inside of APT Foundation, I think there's a lot of knowledge that you can give us. And as they talk about opening up another program in another part of the city. And so I wanted to make sure that your voice was in with all the other voices. So I want to start with you to talk about, your experience working for APT.
Okay, I just want to go back and explain something. One of the reasons why I came on here. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in downtown New Haven at Courtesy Drugstores, serving the community. My aunt and uncle Ruthie and Sherman opened up Sherm's Beaver Food Shop in the Ville, so served the community. My uncle Hyman Fleischner opened up and served the community over in the 6 corners of Columbus Avenue. My family was dedicated and have been dedicated their whole lives to serving the community. That's a part of me because I have a very diverse background. Before I got into counseling, and became a certified addictions counselor. I also have done a lot of business, and I currently am a housing specialist for a nonprofit agency working with young adults. So my coming on here was to say a few things about, if you're coming into a community, come to serve the community first and foremost. And so that's part of why I wanted to come on here, is because I don't think coming in through the back door and not notifying the mayor, the board of aldermen, or doing this properly from a business perspective of what do you bring to the community was what was appalling to me. And Mayor Elicker was appalling to me at the press conference, especially mentioning the CEO like it was his best friend, and we're going to work together to make this happen. That's not what the community is asking for. Yeah. So that was the first part. Now, the second part is, as a certified addictions counselor, I need to clarify that I'm not on here to bang and slap App Foundation for not being able to provide services, because they can provide services. Their scientific and their research development is the utmost and the highest level in the state of Connecticut. My thing is, are they coming in to serve the community, or are they coming in to serve the suburbs inside of the community of New Hallville? So I really wanted to have a voice and come in here and talk about from the inside. Yeah, I'm a certified addictions counselor. I got my training at App Foundation. I did my internship. I ended up getting my certified addiction counselor, I think in 2000 and I think it was like 2008, 2009. App hired me. I had the greatest pleasure of working for a woman named Kathy Floyd. She set me free to do 11 groups a week and to start the IOP program. So I've seen a great success of what App offers as far as research and treatment. So I want to make that clear that I'm not against Apps Foundation's principles of serving people. I just want to make sure that they come into New Hallville and they come in with the idea of not bringing people in from the suburbs and serving them, but reach out to the community, offer mental health services, addiction services, support, and funding to keep that area clean and safe. And that's why I'm here.
Okay. And that's why I asked you to come also. So I know that we have facilities in West Haven and North Haven, right?
Okay, so let me give everybody a quick background of App Foundation. App Foundation started in the late 60s, and in conjunction with Yale to develop a methadone program for the city when there was a blight of heroin addiction. And in their development and their partnership with Yale, they've been the leading treatment facilities in New Haven. They do have facilities, methadone facilities on Sackett Point Road. They have one in North Haven, right across from UPS and Corrugated Container. They have one in West Haven on Front Street. They have the East Ramsdale, which used to be Crossroads, which I also worked at for in my internship. And they also have Congress Avenue and One Long Wharf. And I've worked at One Long Wharf and at Ramsdale Street. And so
okay, so you never worked on Congress Avenue?
No. However, I did do some groups there when they needed me, but I wasn't directly there. But I will talk about, and I will give you the insight of what you're asking me for about what they provide and what they do in the community. Congress Avenue, which they bought the building and they came in right next to the school. They have guards on there all the time. It's a very dangerous situation. That is a daily dosing facility. Methadone, medication-assisted treatment, which is a necessary thing for helping people get off of opioids. They are premier at it. And that facility on Congress Avenue is problematic because every day they have hundreds and hundreds of people that get in a line to get their daily bottles.
Are they getting therapy along with that medication?
Yeah, they provide therapy. However, as Senator Tony Walker talked about, the therapy is only required once a month in conjunction with the state of Connecticut and Demas's mandates. So it's not like they have to come and engage in treatment on a higher level, except for
Yeah.
those that are in the intensive outpatient program, which is 3 days a week, 3 hours a day.
And who does that facility predominantly, I have to ask a question, so we're gonna run out of time. And who are they predominantly serving on Congress Avenue?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to. So the demographic makeup of that clientele is pretty much the New Haven clients and that area. And like I said, you got to understand that that is a daily dosing clinic. Now, the difference between that and what you are getting ready to experience is One Longworth provides services for the outer communities, the suburbs, where they can't put a clinic. So I don't know the demographic makeup, but I think Senator Walker can get those that information. However, those are bottle privileges. Those are people that get methadone and Suboxone. And it's not just the methadone program. It's also, it's an agonist and an antagonist, 2 different types of treatment that they provide, which are successful when used properly and implemented with treatment. They provide that at One Longworth. They call it bottle privilege. When somebody earns and stays clean and, being a harm reduction facility, it's not complete abstinence, because in our world of substance abuse, there is no such thing as complete abstinence with people that are struggling. And we have to meet people where they're at. And that's where APT is good. I need to say that. And they could be good in the New Hallville community if that's what they're coming in there to offer. And so they are serving at One Longworth, the suburbs. And they're going to be bringing, and I don't know the demographic, I don't know the makeup of their clientele, but I can tell you it's very high. And you will be seeing people not of color coming into New Hallville to get their
as Congress Avenue.
As well, the difference with Congress Avenue is a lot of those people are on, Pastor, those are people that aren't as fortunate. They haven't built bottle privileges. They have jobs. They come in and they get their methadone in the morning and they go to work. They come in at 5:30. They start.
But what I want to say, let me just say.
Yeah, I wanted to bring you in a minute anyway, John, because the time is just really flying by, and I really want to hear from you and other people in the community how this clinic impacts. So, and that's why I asked the question of Richard, what is the demographics of the people who are coming in? And he's already said they're predominantly people from the suburbs. And so I want to stop there and then let you and John to talk about what you've seen of Congress Avenue. I don't know if you've seen the one on Longworth. And so what do you think is going to happen on New Hallville?
Well, again, I just think I want Rick and Barbara, as we've always said, no one's against the treatment.
Right, we know that.
The working or the helping or what APT does. Great. We applaud APT for doing such a great job. The problem is bringing it in this community where you just said they can't put one in the suburbs or wherever, certain location. One of the questions is why not? Why can't they put one out in their community where the majority of the people that are impacted by the opioid situation is not people of color? And statistically, it is shown that it's not predominantly us. On top of that, here we go, like Congress Avenue, we got some issues that are in the community that we're dealing with and struggling with that is already traumatizing. And as Brother Hassan said, you're bringing people that are traumatized inside of a area that's traumatized. How do you do that to people? It does not work. It doesn't help. So it's not about the record of APT helping. It's about the community not wanting this particular element because it has been shown not to be healthy. It brings down the value of the community. We already are trying to deal with the violence in the community. So again, I don't see why it's so hard for those individuals or the APT or whoever to really find a location that's not near a community that's already traumatized and to put the help there if you really about helping the people. Location shouldn't matter, but it matters to us because we live there. But the location shouldn't matter.
And can I just
and
say,
just like you, 1 minute, Peter, just like you talked about the location that they have in Sackett Point Road and the one that they have in West Haven, both of those are in industrial areas. They're not in the community. I live in West Haven. I've never even seen the clinic, have no idea where it's at because it's not in my residence where we live at. It's on the outskirts. Why is it that when they bring this program to New Haven, they have to center it right in our community, in Black and brown communities? And like the one at Congress Avenue, it's always blown my mind why they allowed that place to stay there when they have a school right next door. That would
Right
never, ever be even thought about in the suburbs. So, and just like we're all saying, it's not about people getting treatment. We understand that. People always want to harp on that. Well, we got to help people. And even when they talk about harm reduction, what about the harm that's coming to our community? What about the harm that's being done to our kids that they have to pass by people early in the morning on their way to school, on their way back home throughout the day? They have to pass by people who've gone into app on Congress Avenue, and then they hang out there, they sell drugs, they use drugs, they've had a murder outside. People get their drugs and then the methadone, whatever they get, and then they hang out on in the area, destroying the area. This is what we're talking about. People want to focus on like we're trying to stop people from getting help. That's not it. Suburbs should want people to get help since so many all those people come from the suburb. So why not put it out there in Cheshire and up Prospect Streets, place like that?
Or
why do they have
Ellicott.
to put it in the middle of Black and brown communities? And I don't understand why Black and brown communities don't speak up. And so as we talk about Black History Month, let's talk about the difference between what happens when it was crack and what's happening now that it's opioids. And now it's a public health issue. We got to have all these treatment centers and we don't want people going to jail. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. People want to forget about that part. It's not about the program. It's the destruction and the kind of people that have to be around our kids every day that they would never allow in the suburbs.
And we're just recovering from the crack epidemic. Some of the fathers are just coming home from that situation and being able to settle inside of their community. As Barbara said, when it was a crack epidemic, they went to jail. When it's the opioid epidemic, they get treatment. And so again, that's another conversation. But the truth of the matter is, where's the value of us as a people? That's a predominantly Black community. So what they're saying is that we really don't value you in the sense of being important of what you might feel about this. So regardless of how well APT might be doing and helping people, and that again, that's great. But again, where's the value for us as a community? And for the mayor to stand there and say that he's going to do the best that he could do. I mean, he didn't even say that. He said, in other words, it's already something in action, or it's something that's already in progress, or they already brought it. I didn't know nothing about it, which I find it hard to believe. But as a leader of a community, he could have said, listen, I'm going to do everything that I can do to stop this because it's not what you want. I'm going to do everything in my power. And if it didn't work, at least the community felt that he was trying to make a difference. So again, I applaud the New Hartville community that came out. And I encourage them to keep on coming out, not just for this situation, but for any situation, because we got to stop looking for leaders who have been brought out, whether they're pastors, whether they're mayors, or whoever they might be in the political circle. It's the power of the people that's going to make this thing different and be able to make and shift this stuff out of the way. So if any of us, the community is watching, then you are the leaders that need to make the difference to make sure that this doesn't happen.
And can I just say, that was so on point, Pastor, because I grew up with unity in the community. And, I used to always
Donald Moore.
Yeah, and I would just say this. I want to say a couple of things just quickly, that there has always been a disparity in the treatment between people of color and white people when it comes to the efficacy of treatment over the years. However, I need to say you are 100% correct. And I think one of the things here, and let's give kudos to the mayor of Hamden for getting up there and speaking clearly that she heard the message and
Yes.
is supporting people. So I would also say to everybody that might be listening or on this, go to your alderman, get the aldermanic committee to be responsible because you voted them in to support your needs. Every ward should be speaking loudly because this still has to go through zoning.
Mhm.
And no matter whether it's a medical facility, if they are not, and I wrote down something, if they are not providing collaboration and treatment services for the direct community in connection with the New Hawville team. Number two, if they are not providing safety or a program that they're bringing to that community to ensure that they can keep the children safe and make sure that no one is worried. And third, being a considerate and involved, like I said, collaborative part of the community, then there's no reason for them to be there.
Right. And
They don't
and I
need to be
think-
there.
Pardon me. No, and what I was talking to one of the people who was in charge of pushing this issue, and she said that they met with the mayor of New Haven. They're trying to get his support. Like you said, mayor of Hamden came right out and said, I'm supporting the residents in this community. If this is not what they want, I'm going to stand with them. I love that about her, as opposed to the other mayor who there's nothing I can do. I felt like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, and he was using the same old phrase that people want to harp on. Well, this is about people needing services. No, it's not about people needing services, because as you said, the majority of those people needing services are coming in. Now, tell me why, if you know, because I've heard, but I don't know, why people are coming from Waterbury, where there's a program, into New Haven.
Oh, there's many clinics throughout the state of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Make no mistake, App Foundation has treatment services along with, medication assisted treatment.
Mm-hmm.
They, like I said, their efficacy and their ability to use evidence-based practices is very, very strong.
But that's not what we're talking about.
But
My question was
the answer to your question is
because you've already talked about how great they are. We want to talk about
I'm saying why they come in is because they can only get medication from the other clinics. They're not getting treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Why?
So that's a good question, and that you have to ask Demas, because Demas should have practice standards. And I think Tony Walker talked about this. Higher practice standards
once a month.
Yeah, higher practice standards so that every facility that, listen, if you're giving out methadone under, a treatment process, it is about money. There is money involved in this. So, it's not just treatment, it's money that keeps the process going. Even as a nonprofit organization, they get grants, funding, and research.
Mm-hmm.
How are they putting that back into the community? So these people coming from Waterbury by bus and some other areas are not the biggest part of what they treat, but they do come. The biggest part of what they treat is the people from the suburbs that are coming, and they are people that are Caucasian. Skin is definitely, and Pastor, you're right. Why don't they put it in Madison next to Hand High School? Why don't they put it in
next to
Guilford?
Mayor Elliker?
Yeah, why didn't they put it in Fairhaven next to his house? And the point being is, Barbara, your question I can't answer because I don't know enough about why people do that. However,
I'll respond. That's why I said, this is what I heard. I figure you work inside, you might know better. But when I've heard people on the bus talking about why they come to Congress Avenue, it's because they can continue to use, where other programs want them actually getting treatment, trying to wean themselves off, doing, without it.
And that's true.
Congress Avenue says you don't even have to stop using and you can still come here. So a lot of people want to flock to where they can continue to use and still be getting whatever treatment they could be getting if they only getting counseling once a month. I don't know how that works, because they said the most effective way to handle this problem is a combination of medication and counseling. Counseling once a month, getting drugs every single day, not a good balance. So I don't know how that's an effective treatment if you're not doing both.
Hey, Rick, was Daytop a part of APT?
I think I'm not quite sure of the total history, but I think at some point APT started the methadone clinics. I don't know if the name was Daytop or what it was, but I believe
No, because I was sentenced to a place in somewhere up in Newtown. It was called Daytop, and I'm thinking that APT was a part of that. And they had treatment, like Barbara saying, the counseling piece of it. All of that there was a piece of it. But again, just to reiterate, there's no excuse. It is not a matter of whether APT could really work with the community in the process of what they want to do. The bottom line is that the community doesn't want it. Number one, I believe that there was a violation in conversation. It never happened. It's like they undercurrently did it. Again, as I don't believe the mayor didn't know nothing about it. The mayor presents himself as being untouchable, and he's more interested in building high-rises and apartment buildings than really start to really take care of the community. Of course, Mayor Elliker got some people around him that may assist him, but even those individuals need to be held accountable, and they should be a voice for the community, not just fractions of it. A leader of a leader of New Haven or any other city, as the mayor in Hampton, she took a chance. She stood and said something publicly, and it's up to us to hold her to that if she said that, and that's up to us. At least she said it. But again, it's not about a leader fractionalized and picking who he wants to be around him so that they can do what he wants to do. He doesn't feel like there's no challenge. He don't feel like there's no pressure coming at him. And I think the people in Newhallville need to put pressure on the mayor, come out in larger numbers, and make this thing go away. It's simple as that.
And
well, I know they have like a petition drive. Go ahead.
The alderman also of the Newhallville and all the surrounding aldermen need to collaborate with their peers on the aldermanic committee and understand, like I told you, I started in this world with my family serving the community. And we weren't serving Caucasians. We were serving the demographic makeup of New Haven based off of their need. So what is the need of the Newhallville community? What are you gonna give and serve the Newhallville community? And how are you gonna be a good partner? And how is the mayor of New Haven and the aldermanic committee gonna support what the neighborhood's needs are without letting anything come in there to bring it down after all the work that they've done?
And when I think of Miss Madden, when I think of Miss Madden, the first thing I think about was the fact that she really didn't talk to a whole lot of people. So that tells me something right there. I look at the fact, because when people, a lot of people are like politicians, they'll come out and promise you anything. So I don't look at what she's promising in Newhallville. I look at, okay, what did you give us in the Hill? What did you give us on Long Wharf? So I don't expect that you're going to be giving us anything more. Both of those sites are dangerous sites. There's a daycare on Long Wharf who said they had to redirect how their kids get in and out of the building because that place was so badly with all those people that gotten their treatment are hanging all outside, bringing the property down. Same thing on Congress Avenue. So for me, part of that work is not just making sure they don't come into Newhallville. Take them to Cheshire and take them outside of Elliker's community, put them out there. Put those programs out there. But for me, it is also APT needs to leave Congress Avenue. Why the Black community has allowed them to traumatize their kids every single day, I'll never understand it. I never had kids to go to that school because if I did, it probably would have been gone because I wouldn't have had it. You're not going to have these people hanging around, tearing the community down, traumatizing my child every single day. But for some reason, Hill lets it happen. But I think part of their work needs to be APT has to find another location away from that school.
I mean, you got people nodding out.
And buts.
You got people nodding out right in front. I had a nonviolence walk throughout the community. Right down the street from the program on Congress Avenue, there was gunfire on the street. I had to get the kids away because the street was hot and known to where people buy drugs right there. So again, it's about being concerned And like you said, Bob, that program needs to be moved out of there, and it doesn't need to be there. And with the alders, as you said, I do believe that a lot of our alders do serve the community to the best they can be. But when you have a mayor that overrides their decision, just like with the police decision, when they wanted the police, they didn't want the police chief in, he said he can keep her in. So he didn't even acknowledge the fact of what they said, that them not wanting her in. So when you got a person like that in a chief position, it's the people that got to start to stand up and speak loud and spare not.
And then I just want to add to the, so as we end this conversation, again, talking about Black history and talking about the different responses to the crisis, depending on who is impacted. I think about right now, there's a minimum 5 years for anybody selling anything that has fentanyl in it. I look at the fact that when you talk about distribution, the wealthy Sackler family in Greenwich built wealth, billions in wealth over this opioids. And I look at the doctors who prescribe these medications over and over and over again, knowing how highly addictive they were. As far as I'm concerned, you're in collusion too, but there's no jail time for them. But yet in the crack crisis, everybody went to jail. There was no push for treatments or nothing. It was just, you're a problem in the community and you need to go to jail. So I think I'm going to end it there. If anyone has another comment or two, or that they want to add, very brief, because we're already over the half an hour, and I definitely want to get on this next issue in our community. I do want to say that there's been a lot of support coming from people, a lot of recommendations, support letters, and you know, the group is going to continue to fight to keep New Harville from not becoming another Congress Avenue or Long Wharf.
I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come on and give you an inside perspective of efficacy of treatment and the understanding. Like I said, you know, it's like my family taught me, you give back to the community, you pay it forward, and you keep the community safe, healthy, and you provide them the services that they need. Mm-hmm. And you don't come in any business and not be a partner, a collaborator, or somebody that is looking for efficacy for improvement in that area. So I came in to just say that, and I appreciate. Nice to meet you, Pastor John. Barbara,
likewise.
Much. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor, you want to say any last words on this topic? I'm going to move to the next one.
I just want to say thank you, Rick, for that insight and that information, and also, you know, I just want to encourage the New Harville community and just the communities at large. Once again, your voice is so important. Don't hold your pastors and those organizational leaders accountable. If they're not there for you, then you need to speak about them too. You need to say something. I don't care who it is. If you got something to say about me, say it. I'm all right with it, because I should be open to the fact of something that you want to address me with. And so should everybody else that calls themselves a leader of your community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day.
Sure. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Now, moving on to Pastor Lewis, because you've been with us on our struggle to get the PROTECT Act passed. And for those who don't know what the PROTECT Act is an action being taken against DOC to bring a more responsible public agency into our community that has humanity at its core. And so PROTECT, the acronym stands for Promoting Responsible Oversight, which is extremely important, Treatment, and Effective Correctional Transparency. That's what the PROTECT Act is about. And elements of the PROTECT Act, for those who don't know, these are the demands that we're making for DLC. We want to ensure oversight and accountability. There's just so much going on inside of DOC. People, any caring, thinking people would be horrified if they knew the way their loved ones are being treated on the inside. Because I don't get a lot of people that have people behind bars involved in this movement. Unfortunately, it's a lot of other people, but I don't know if that's because they have no clue what is actually happened to their loved ones. Because I think people behind bars who are being traumatized and tortured and stuff and abused, I don't know. Maybe they don't tell their family members what's happening to them, because I can't understand why, with 9,000 people in prison, predominantly Black and brown people, when I have an event, it's predominantly white people that show up. I don't understand that. Because if this is happening to your loved one, you should be front and center. And that's why I started out this work many, many years ago, even before my kids was involved, decades ago, trying to stop the torture in prison like California, Philadelphia. I testified in the first ever congressional hearing, I think it was in 2012 in Philadelphia. So I've been across the nation working on this issue. And didn't realize in 1995 we got a supermax here, and they're doing the same thing here. And so, once I realized that, I been right on top of that. What I don't understand is why it's such a struggle to get Black and brown people to fight back. So before I hear from you, Pastor Lewis, I just wanted to let people know the elements of the demands we're making. So we want to ensure oversight and accountability, and we're really pushing for oversight, because the Commissioner of Corrections, on the day that he was confirmed, definitely is against any civilian oversight. But he said, well, we can talk about some other kind of oversight. But DOC in Connecticut is one of very few states around the nation that have no independent oversight. And that's why there's some of the things that I'm going to mention may be hard to hear, because it's hard for me to even talk with Department of Corrections about some of this stuff. But without oversight, they can continue doing what they're doing. And we got to have accountability, like with police. We have to have accountability for correction officers who abuse and torture and do all these things to people behind bars. Number two, we want to end extreme isolation and promote effective alternatives. Now, one of the things we are really against is in-cell restraint. So people may think, oh, in-cell restraint, okay, they're just using some therapeutic restraints to hold people down if they're out of control. No, in-cell restraints that we're trying to say needs to be banned is when they put somebody on a bed, they shackle their feet, they shackle their wrists, and they put what they call a belly chain around them. And then they take this other teether chain that connects the top part with the bottom part, so that people can't even sit up in a straight position. And they've been doing that, and they've left people in that position up to 72 hours at a time. And many people have been through it many, many times. I can't even understand what, like when I talk to Department of Corrections, because I meet with them every Tuesday. And this last one was really hard for me to hear, when they described how they chain them up and leave them in this cell. And I said, so what about therapeutic restraints like medical people use, the leather soft restraints? Oh no, we absolutely need these things. Why do you need to shackle and chain up our people? Because the majority of those people, including young kids, are Black and brown. Why do you need to chain us up? Like, do you still think you're back in the 1600s? I don't get it. But no one's talking about that. But I'm making sure it's talked about. I want to make sure parents know what's going on with your kids. So when your kids come back and they're a complete mess, don't be ready to get on your kids. Ask them what's happened to them and see if you can get them to tell you. Because some of those kids will never, ever, ever be the same. United Nations has cited Connecticut prisons twice. The last time was in February of 2020. Cited our prisons for torture, because that's what they do to people. They put them in those cells, sometimes like northern shutdown. So people think, okay, that abuse is no longer happening. No, they just they close the building down to hope to appease us so we go away. There's lawsuits behind all the stuff that they've done to people, and they thought closing northern would quiet everything. No, what I found is they just strip some cells in places like McDougal, Corrigan. And so they put those people in the same conditions inside of those prisons. And then we talk about Gardner facility, which holds the seriously mentally ill. And many of them are seriously mentally ill because of the torture and the abuse that they've had to encounter. Many of them did not come in mentally ill, but they're leaving there seriously crippled mentally. How our loved ones are not tearing the walls down, I don't get it. But anyway, let me finish this. Then we want to protect social bonds. People need to have visits, letters, on all that kind of stuff. Even if they're in these isolated conditions, they still need to be able to have some kind of relationship with people on the outside. We want to promote correctional officer wellness, because we know many people go into these positions inside the Department of Corrections. They go in with a good heart, compassion. They want to shift the culture. But what normally tends to happen is they get co-opted by that abusive culture. And so we want to make sure that, the officers are mentally well before they're interacting with our people. And it is mostly our people. 70% of the people behind bars is us. And in the juvenile system, it's even higher. I think it's like 80% of the kids in the juvenile are Black and brown. Yeah. So we have to make sure these officers are not racist and coming in with sadistic attitudes and abusing our people with impunity. And then we have to promote transparency. We need to know more about what's going on inside prisons. So I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to let people know what that means, the PROTECT Act. And I think just knowing what we're asking, I think everybody should be on top of it. I shouldn't have to beg people to come out to an event. They should be all over it. They should be talking to their family members, trying to get from them what are they going through, because most of those people are coming back to our community. And when they come back to our community full of anxiety, depression, rage, we've had suicides like within months of people getting out of Department of Corrections, they have committed suicide. These are all information we're finding out. So I just want to put families on alert when leaders that always talk about gun violence and coming up with, let's throw more money to the police. No, you need to find out if your son or daughter is a mess, get them some help, and because they need it badly. And some of those people, according to your international law, will never be the same after just 15 days of that abuse. So just imagine people who've been there for months and years. So, Pastor, tell me, I know there's probably not one reason, and I know the biggest one is probably compassion and humanity, but tell me what brought you to this, because you've been at every event, almost every single event we've had, our protests, everything. And so, and opened your church to us where other churches don't even consider it. What makes this interesting to you that you are so deeply involved?
Barbara, first of all, again, just you and who you are, your passion, and again, as a man of God, let me just stand on that principle as a spiritual leader. Anytime that you see a person such as yourself and conditions that you are challenging, you're not just talking about individuals, you're talking about a system. Mm-hmm. And for you to stand and to challenge that system and to speak out about the misconduct of that system, and there's no leaders with you to stand there, which is our duty, which is our obligation to do that. And knowing I was a part of that on the other side, I come from that prison system. I didn't stay there long because I didn't like it. You ain't had to worry about me wanting to be connected to that. But again, and not seeing, when I saw no pastors or no leaders really walking with you, and yet you're standing and fighting against this right here, it's our obligation to do that. And I'm committed to that. It's not about me standing behind no pulpit and railing my mouth and telling people it's going to be all right and God is good. It's about the suffering of the people that you're speaking out for right now, those that are voiceless. So where else am I supposed to be? The churches were supposed to always be and was the voice back in the 60s. That's where you got your communication from. Back in the 60s and all of that, that's where people came to meet at to talk about the injustice. And that's where the orders came from. But you know, money changes things. When people start to get money and paid off, then the leaders start to quiet down the people. And the people in and of themselves, Barbara, you asked the question of why there are not a lot of people coming out and speak on this behalf. Barbara, we are so inundated, the community, with so much. You got the drug addiction, you got poverty, and by design, this is school to prison pipeline. You distract the family, destroy the family, separate the father from the house, overburden the mother, induce the children with drugs, don't educate them, give them their own rights, take away the parental guidance. What else you gonna have? You're gonna have a prison full of Black and brown people. What else are we as leaders supposed to be fighting for? This very thing. Anytime that there's injustice and there's treatment that's not supposed to be there, they're not in slavery. You don't chain people like that inside. I would love to say to this, take those political, those that are in control of the prison, the DOC, whoever they are, take 20 of them and have them spend a 7 days or 5 days under those conditions. Treat them in the way that we see and hear that the prisoners are treated. Let them go through that process, because sometimes until you feel it and you experience it, you don't care about it until it hits your door, whatever. Now, if it was their children, it'd be different. But sometimes people got to go through that process. Sometimes people got to feel it. Our people are not saying nothing, just like in the Children's March back in the 60s, because, again, of fear of retaliation. It was the youth that made the difference, Barbara, back in the 60s. And when Dr. Martin Luther King, the older folk didn't want to say nothing because they didn't want to disturb their comfortability, not saying they didn't care, but they lived with that negative peace, we call it. They're going along to get along. And so, again, and with our young people, right now, they legalizing marijuana, drugs, all of that. Our young people, a lot of them are not even thinking about the injustice. So they just got us all kind of going every which way. So again, I'm saying to the people, the people power, again, as you champion this cause, Barbara, the people got to get behind you. And if they're not Black, that's fine. The people are there. Let's speak out and work with what we got. The Bible says to provoke them to jealousy, meaning do the work that the people should be doing. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
The pastors and leaders should be ashamed of themselves, of not supporting or even coming conversating with you, asking you, how can we help with this situation? Because those are our children. Yes. Those are our babies that are from our community. What can we do to assist you? That's what they should be doing. Why they're not doing that, I don't know. But I only can account for me.
Well, you know, you touched on something when you said people are getting funding and that's silencing them, because I think about the pastors that used to always be out here, you know, supporting me in this work, and I don't even see them anymore. Then I know there's other people that used to be supportive who now have jobs, you know, with the state or the federal government. And so that has silenced them. They can't stand with me. And so it is really hard. I think a lot of it is like, you know, I'm getting funding, so I can't say anything. And, you know, that's always worked. If they could buy me, they definitely would to silence me. But you know what? I'm not for sale, because I'm doing this for our people. And I'm going to continue to speak out as long as I can speak out. I don't care who's offended, who doesn't like me. None of that matters, because you know what? This work is not popularity work for me. I don't care about being liked. I'm not looking for any points or awards or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be speaking out. And like I said, I was doing it well before my my own kids was involved in the system. But once they took my son and put him in that Supermax at 17 years old, and my son is 40 today, and he continues to suffer. And I think I was reading the lawsuit, the most recent lawsuit that Yale put against DOC. And I'm reading in that and seeing that some of those kids now, 17, 18 years old. And I know those kids probably never, ever be the same again. So I see it as a slow genocide, systematic genocide of our people. Because if you're taking our kids at that age, 17 and 18, and putting them in those abusive conditions, they'll never be the same because their minds are still forming. And that's why, you know, according to international law, that's why they say my son suffered as badly as he did because he had just turned 17. Those kids' brains are still forming. So when you're torturing people when they're babies almost, they can't get past it. They can't overcome it. And so, you know, when I see that, and now I hear that Department of Justice is looking into our juvenile system too, because we got those little kids as young as 14 in there that they're isolating, putting in rooms all day long, 20, 22 hours a day. And you know, sometimes I hear from the people that are advocating for kids, well, where's their parents? You know, and I don't know what to say. If I had a 14 or 15, 16, I don't know what age that I'll get to the point that I'm just going to throw my child away. I don't get it. And maybe it's not that. I'm trying to understand it though, because they're killing your kids, literally.
But Barb, here's the thing. Our people got to be careful what they ask for. Listen, they intentionally are trying to, when they remove the parent being in, and they never said that. DCF never said you couldn't beat your child. It said you couldn't abuse your child. I want you to do the tracking on that. Let's do tracking on that. Go all the way back when that statement was made and track it all the way here. And I guarantee you, you'll see the prison increase like never before. Because we did not understand what DCF was saying. So you didn't beat your child or you didn't discipline your child. And now children got out of hand. And now the parents are saying, I need help. I can't control my children. So now you turn them over. And when you turn them over to the DOC or you turn them over to the Justice Department, then they do what they do. Then they're going to say, well, you asked for help. You're the one that called, or you're the one agreed, or you're the one that said that we got to do better or help us with our children, or, you know, they're getting out of control. You said that. Yeah. And that's why I say that, like you said, the community, the spiritual leaders, the organizers, all of them got to be involved. Yeah. We are the ones. No one's going to care for our people like we should care for them. And we can't ask nobody to do that. That's right. It is wrong for us to say, for someone of another ethnicity, can you care for us? Because we don't care for ourselves.
And you know that, and you know that's part of the battle, because I say all the time, if you have human compassion, there's no way in the world you could do that to another person, even, especially another child, knowing that you're probably harming them to the point that they'll never come back. Young kids committing suicide, all this stuff is, and that's why we have to have transparency, because we do freedom of information requests to find out that these things are happening. People are actually hanging themselves many, many times, or trying to kill themselves under DOC care. You never hear about that. The suicides that have happened, all the diseases that come out of being incarcerated. These are all the things that are happening, and all of these people are coming back to our community. I try to get engaged on the time is winding down, but I try to engage for instance, Connecticut Against Gun Violence. Okay, these are organizations talking about they trying to affect gun violence. Well, if you don't take into account that these kids are being abused and tortured, and they're coming back out here full of rage, they've been isolated, so they don't have that socialization that keeps communities together. They lost all of that behind bars. And yet you want to, and then they come home and they get involved in gun violence, and you don't want to go all the way back to the root of that gun violence. You just want to say, oh, well, let's pour more and more money. Let's get people to talk about the gun violence. That tells me you're not really serious about helping our kids. Right. Because if you're serious, these organizations about more money for the police, more task force. No, you're not interested in our kids. So anyway, I gotta go. Time is over. Thank you so much, Tom, for letting me do this show. Thank you, John, for always being there. Goodbye.
All right.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up.